What's up, you guys? Welcome to another Coffee Chats with Jen. Today's episode is going to be a topic that everyone is very well aware of, that's happening social media, news media. Unless you're completely avoiding it and ignoring it, I'm pretty sure you've heard something about it. And that topic is the topic of Black Lives Matter and what happened, tragedy that happened a month ago with Mr. George Floyd. Now, I'm not going to be my normal cheery self. In fact, I'm a little nervous in creating this video. Some may say it's long overdue, it's a little too late at this point. Others may think that it's just for clout. Others may think, well, what does she really have to say? Is it even worth it? She doesn't have a platform like that. Like, why is she putting herself out there? And, you know, that's something that I've thought about over the past few weeks. I haven't posted anything because right after my last video is when I learned about the situation that occurred with George Floyd. So, of course, if you are a longtime subscriber of mine or a friend of mine that follow my, that are subscribed to my channel, thank you very much for the support. And if you've tuned in to my coffee chats, usually these are more episodes where I'm not going to show you anything. I'm not going to talk about a product. I'm just here to kind of talk about just chat. And that's what this is, Coffee Chats with Jen. My son had purchased me a coffee earlier. It was a BOGO deal. And so I had saved it. I thought I would save it for tomorrow morning, but this has been something that has been on my mind for quite a while. So this video might be a little long. It's probably not going to be edited as much as my other videos may be. This is literally me I thought about writing things down. I thought about having kind of a Q&A for myself. But I feel like any way I went about it, it wasn't going to be the right way. So, and I apologize that I feel like I keep adjusting, but I literally just had my brackets changed on my braces today. So that's that. It's not uncomfortable yet. I'm sure I'll be uncomfortable tomorrow, but I just feel like things aren't quite in the same, you know, like they normally were. I do want to apologize in advance. It is the evening, as I've said in other videos before. I'm a mom of 4 and a wife. So my husband's downstairs with the music or TV going, my son's video gaming. And usually that's the time when I'm able to do these videos where I don't feel like I'm taking away from my family time. So again, this is just gonna be me, raw and uncut. So I talked about the topic of social media. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, that's at Jengaga. If you do follow me on my Instagram, you'll notice that I have been sharing stories. Anything that I find, I don't consider myself an expert, okay? As you can see, I'm not Black, I'm Latina, I'm Mexican American, born and raised here in Sacramento. Both parents are from Mexico, and I'm pretty much first generation born here. So I'm not Black, but I do have a lot of friends that are near and dear to my soul that I feel that they're more than just friends. They're what I call familia. Friends, family combined. They're my family that I've opted to call family. And so everything that's kind of been happening in our world, it does touch people that I love. And so that's why I hesitated really speaking up from, I don't want to come off as someone that knows it all, because I don't. I can't ever say that I know what the Black community is feeling, but I can say that from someone, myself being not only a woman, but a woman of color, I'm familiar with certain social injustices and stereotypes. And because I speak Spanish or because I look a certain way, people may assume that I'm from Mexico, which again, I have in no way, shape, or form am I ashamed when people think that. but because I support DACA, which, by the way, and this is another reason why I really wanted to jump on here. I don't want to take away from the Black Lives Movement, but I do want to say that I was super thankful and happy to see the updated news of DACA being here to stay. Hopefully this leads to a path of citizenship, because I know people personally that are DACA recipients, and whatever people may have to say, I know that these are people that have gone to school, put themselves to school, paid for their own college education, and still contributing to society without the benefits that some of us have. And so that's why another thing that kind of lit that fire, like, you have to get on here and say something, speak, talk about it. So being someone that I don't have a large YouTube community, I wasn't as amped to really share anything on YouTube right away, because one thing that you may have seen or heard through this movement is, if you don't know, learn, listen. And that's what I've been here to do. These last few weeks, not posting, one, I didn't feel like I had anything to share that was more important than this. Two, makeup is gonna be there. I have this amazing palette that I purchased from a local brand, and Latina owned, but I still love it, and that will come. But right now, it's not the time. So for me, it was more letting it be known that I'm out there. So of course it started before the Blackout Tuesday, but Blackout Tuesday kind of amplified it. I've been one of the people that have opted to leave my profile picture as a black circle, and I don't really care. I mean, of course we all care about having a following, but I don't care like I'm gonna cry. But I've been it's been an interesting journey. I've been keeping track of my following count. And you're probably wondering, well, if you don't care, why are you even paying attention? And not on YouTube, because clearly YouTube is its own separate thing. And again, I don't feel like I have a huge platform like other influencers. And other influencers that have that huge platform have been, called out. Like, why aren't you saying something? Why aren't you using that platform? And I low-key felt like almost like a hypocrite. Like, dude, why aren't you saying anything? Even though it's not a huge audience, that 300 some odd followers is still people that you can essentially touch. And I have people that are in other countries, and people in other countries may not understand like what's even going on. And so that's kind of why I decided I do need to say something, at least acknowledge and talk about it. So again, this is not for clout or, again, I don't want to come off as I know it all, but I just want to share kind of my thoughts about the whole situation. So again, going back to Instagram, I have found new pages to follow. I have been vigilant of those that may claim to be supporters, but really haven't said much. And I try to look at it both ways. Like, I don't want to assume that the person doesn't care. And it could be that someone is really just taking a step back, listening, watching, learning. But I have seen others that have, when people post certain memes, it's almost like they're trying to send a message without really saying much to the person directly. I've seen people comment things like they're taking offense to it, as if this is something that we're attacking the military, because as we know, in certain cities we had the National Guard out, and our city of Sacramento was one. And I could see why people may take it that way, because personally, when I envision our military, I envision the military to protect our country, but not of each other. So, and people might try to attack me for saying that. But yeah, I mean, when you see certain things happening, it is scary to see that there's somebody that has like this military. I'm not a firearms guru, but when you see someone with this big gun, like, what does that tell me? And so certain people have commented about, oh, well, I know people that have been in the military that have protected all of you and protected of your freedom. And I took a little bit of offense to that, because I'm like, in no way, shape, or form have we ever, at least me personally, made this about attacking our military. Again, and if you don't know this about me, I was one that wanted to be in the military. That was my original plan, was to go into the military. But as I have shared in the past, I became a young mother and I couldn't do that because I wasn't about to sign my rights over to a family member and not be there to care for my son. So the next thing was that I was going to join our local police department, because my original goal in life was to go into law enforcement so I can gain the experience so that I can hopefully go on into FBI and hopefully battle the issue of human trafficking one day. And certain things happened that I made it to a certain point here in our local police department, and I never heard back. I was told I didn't make it. Never got an official document. So that kind of goes to show like my experience as a Mexican American that is a female, that who knows, that could have been at that point. And so I've had certain reservations about that. But when people assume that this movement is about attacking our military, that wasn't at all what this was about. So then that goes on into the situation with the police brutality. For me, for someone that has, again, I had goals of going into the police department. It's almost like one of those things, and I want to say I've mentioned this in a past video, but it's one of those things that it was a blessing in disguise. I still recall making that phone call to find out a status update after my personal history statement that I went in and did. You got to remember, I took the test, passed. I went in and did an interview, passed. I went all the way to the personal history statement. And that's where some people say, well, maybe you were too honest. Maybe you were too honest about I speed occasionally, I text and drive occasionally. That they just felt, whoa, she's a little too honest for us. I don't know. I just know that when I walked out, the day that I walked out from that personal history statement session, I was one of the last people. And I feel like the officer was over it because he was waiting on me and like 2 other people. And when I was given my little paper, they make you take a picture with your candidate number. It was like a bunch of 13s, and he said that was a bad luck number, and he had a little smirk. I really wish I knew what I knew now, because I would have taken his information down as far as his name. I would have asked if he has some type of badge number to be able to follow up. Because I'll tell you that about 2 months passed by and I was at work, and on my break I finally decided I'm gonna call and follow up on that. And I knew his voice the second he answered. And all he had to say was, oh, we sent you a letter. You didn't make it. I said, oh, really? I didn't know. Could I get a copy of that letter? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't send those. That was, for me, a moment that completely changed my future. Because to me, that was my hope and want and desire to be able to get that foot in the door just so I can gain that experience. But looking back now, when they say, and I made a video about signs about 2 months ago, that was my moment. That was my sign. It was not meant for me to be in that environment, in that career choice. And looking back now, I do not regret that. If anything, it's a feeling of disgust, because here I was someone that was coming into a choice of a career, honest, wanting to come in to do something so that I could make a difference, and was turned away. So when you know, and I choose to be very careful with this conversation because I want people to understand that I'm sure that there's good people in the police departments. It's just like people in all our communities. There's good and there's bad. But what people need to understand, what the Black Lives Movement, from what I've understood it to be, and this happens to people in our own community, is that we're not here to say that everybody in the police is bad. But what we're here to say and protest, and why we're protesting, at least this is why I was protesting, is that Black Lives Matter. And just because you're an officer and you have a badge does not make you invincible. And just like people that are bad are going to face consequences, bad, so do they. And that to me is where this is my understanding. Again, I'm not saying I'm right, but just like people say, well, not everybody that's an officer is bad. We're not saying that. That's not what I'm saying anyway. But what I am saying is that it's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to have that right and to have people be held accountable, because what has happened to Mr. Floyd and everyone that's happened before that is not right. So what I've been doing is basically reading up on that. I obviously went to school. My undergrad was in education. My grad school was in public administration although it wasn't a public policy graduate degree, a lot of it was policy related. So if I can't do this for a living, it doesn't mean that I can't make a change and make a difference. And so my latest thought process has been, how can I do something? How can I make a difference? What can I do next? And that's been my goal, is trying to figure out the right organization. Who do I need to connect with? And that's really what this is all about for me. So the thing is a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't be out there protesting. It's dangerous. And let's not even get on the looting, because I have people that I even know that are kind of not in the know, but just assume by what they see on mainstream media, aka the 10 o'clock news. Everyone was assuming that because you're protesting, you're also looting. That was not the case. And I had to make this argument over and over and over that the people that were protesting were not the looters and vice versa. We won't even go down that right now. But what I am going to say is that sometimes, and it's a twisted way, that's how people feel they need to react so that people can listen. You know, it's like you need to listen. Like, how many more people need to die before people listen? So, but protesting may not be for everyone. There are people that may be disabled, or they may not feel comfortable, or they have little ones that they don't want to take out. Not only that, but we have a whole pandemic happening. And I get it, but you don't need to go to a protest. All it takes is you getting that information, do your research, understand what this whole fight is about, and really understand that there are other ways you can help, whether it's calling your local council members, whether it's following up on what the laws and the policies are, and getting out there to vote. And that's the other thing that people don't understand, and everybody wants to run to the polls when it comes to the presidential voting year, but nobody stops to think about their local jurisdictions, their local laws. Like, you have to know who you're putting in that office locally. I was guilty of this. Before I knew any of this, I was guilty of this. And it's not until you really put yourself in that position to learn about what it is that you're voting for, it's gonna keep on happening. So I don't want to preach on just that, but these are just little things that I've kind of thought about over the course of the last few weeks. And I don't want to make this video controversial, But at the same time, these are uncomfortable conversations that have to take place for people to understand. Now, going back to the social media situation, I have noticed that certain people have unfollowed my account, and I wonder, was it too much for them? Do they just not care? Maybe it's too much and it's just in their face and they don't want to hear it. But we all have to remember where we came from, and remember that something you might ignore that may not affect you directly can be affecting your neighbor, can be affecting your neighbor's family member, can be affecting your neighbor's family member's parent or child, or, you know, it's just, now, again, I'm not black, my children aren't black, but my children are men of color, and my daughter as well. But for me, having a teenager, which is now a young adult, and every time he leaves that door, I too wonder, because he does have a lot of black friends that he does hang out with, and I wonder, I always tell him, don't do anything that will give them the reason to try to pull you over. He likes loud music, and I tell him, don't do it. Just keep it at a minimum. Like, don't attract that attention, because it's that fear that a mother has that they won't come back. It's one thing to say, who knows if they bump into the wrong person, but it's another to now say that you can't even trust your local law enforcement. And that's the scary part. And that's where I think that everybody needs to understand, is that not everybody has it that easy. Not everybody has it to where they can just say, oh, okay, you'll just get a slap on the wrist. Like, we see this happening over something simple. Like, there are movies out there that all you gotta do is just watch and learn. Even if you don't have it happening in your backyard. Like, these are realities that are happening in other cities, other states, other countries. Not just our country. You guys got to think about it. Like, this stuff is all around us, all around the world. It's just that right now it's happening in our own backyards. Now, the other thing, and I'm guilty of, and I plan to do much better, is mi propia gente. And for those that don't speak Spanish, it's me saying my own people. My own people, this is where it touches me, because these are, now this is my people, mi gente. The other thing that hurts is when I see in the local news that other things that aren't covered. And again, I don't want to talk about this to take away from the Black Lives Matter movement, because that is so touching. And I tell you that when I went to the protest a few weeks ago, it was powerful to see people of all colors, you know, together and protesting together. But in the end, it's still, one thing that I noticed is that our Latin community coming together, black and brown, that is so powerful in itself, because some people have, and this is where it boggles my mind, you guys. Like, when I see people, I saw an influencer, not an influencer like YouTube, but she's like on like reality TV type shows. And she had posted something about children in cages and the immigration camps, and how people are still locked up. And let's not forget about that, because just because it hasn't been in the media, it doesn't mean it's still not happening. And I'm guilty, because I haven't kept up on that, and I feel like a terrible person, because I should be keeping up on this stuff. And let's also talk about, real quick, sidetrack. I'm gonna take a quick sip here. One thing that I have also heard, and I had to, it's okay to take a break. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking a break and saying, you know what, I just want to like woosah really quick, get your mind right before you jump back in. Like, I have a show on Netflix right now that I've been watching. It's totally like off topic, I have my full-on topics, because if you follow my Instagram, you saw that I watched the Khalif Browder story, which is amazing. Not amazing for what happened, but it's something that just like, their whole story just broke my heart. And just to know that this is happening over and over and over, this is just a story that caught national headlines. But had it not, like this, what happened to Khalif Browder was horrible. But then after that, you guys, like, I legit had, this was probably my second breakdown, and breakdown, not like, don't worry, you don't have to like call the hospital or anything, but I had to take a step back and just cry it out. Because it's almost like that feeling of guilt that people are this is happening to people, and I'm just sitting here living my best life and not doing anything about it. So it's okay to take a step back, because you have to be clear, have a clear mind to really take all this in. But going back to the influencer, so this gal posted about the camps, and then I went in, and I try not to read comments because it just makes you angry at times. But I started reading the comments, and people are like, why are you taking away from Black Lives Matter? Nobody cares right now about this. And, you know, things that are really hateful. And again, this is not to take away from that. But what I will say is that, if anything, that needs to still be in the light as well. And so one thing that, you know, came up and came to my attention, and again, this is with me digging around, you guys. This is not on mainstream media. This is not something that people are talking about. And you have people in these ICE facilities or immigration facilities, and they're being sprayed down with these you know, sprays because of the COVID-19, you know, pandemic. And these people are being locked away in cages until who knows when. And if you've watched The 13th, that's another movie that I watched recently on Netflix, which I had known about. I had heard about it like a few years back, and I meant to watch it, and I didn't have Netflix at the time, and I never did. And thank goodness I finally did, because it just opens up your eyes. You just need to know, like, you need to do your research. The companies you're supporting, the school to prison pipeline is not a joke. And like, people need to know these things. And it's crazy that these immigration facilities are just another loophole. These are people that are undocumented, but they're here because they're trying to make a change in their life. Like, I personally know mi gente que vinieron a este país para trabajar duro, hacer trabajo que otra gente no quiere hacer. And for those who don't speak Spanish, what I'm saying is these are people that have come to our country, that have come here to make a change in their life, try to make a living, to get out of whatever their home has provided to them. They've risked their lives. They've crossed that border. Yes, it may have been done illegally, but these are people that are standing maybe out in the fields, picking that fruit for you, bent over, without any shade, without any air conditioning, doing these jobs that people normally wouldn't line up to do. People that don't have work protection, they don't have workers' rights, they don't have any rights. They can't complain about their wrist hurting, they can't complain about their backs hurting, because they know that if they don't do it, they're just gonna be let go and bye. And who knows, probably getting abused. In case you may not know, there's a show that had aired on ABC a few years back called American Crime, and there was a situation there where it was about that. Undocumented workers that were out in the farmlands and just working hours on end, not getting breaks, not getting water, not getting fed. My family came from those, you know, from that past where they worked hard. And to think that somebody would just get arrested and thrown into a cage when all they were trying to do was make a living. It's just, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and I won't go into the history of it all. But it's just sad. It's sad to see that our people just keep getting bashed and bashed and bashed and bashed, and enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I personally have had a couple of few instances where I won't go into detail just because of privacy, but where I was so torn in speaking up, risking myself. And I've done it because I'm not going to sit here and have my people talked down on. I refuse to have people do that. And so that's what hurts, because I know the people that I've known that have come here for a better life and treated a certain kind of way. And so again, we go back to this, well, why is everybody all upset? It's not about just being upset. It's about years and years of seeing our people treated in these horrific ways that it's our time. It's our time to speak up. It's our time to step up and make a difference. So, sorry. I hate crying because my eyes get really swollen and red. But I'd like to say that this video's gone pretty long at this point, 33 minutes long. I may cut a little bit in and out here and there, but this is me, this is raw, and this is uncut. So I understand that I may lose followers. I may lose followers on my YouTube. I may lose followers on my social medias. But honestly, if I lose a follower because you don't want to listen to this message, that's perfectly fine with me, because that just means that we weren't on the right path together. And like the saying goes in Spanish, mejor sola que mal acompañada. That means I'd rather be alone than be accompanied by somebody that's basically not on the same like wavelength, like, you know, just not on, doesn't have my best interest at heart. But I hope that this is an opening to have that discussion. Again, I'm not someone that is comfortable all the time with speaking politics, and I tend to get nervous because, you know, people immediately start to go off and they start going into certain discussions and start bashing people. I do appreciate a dialogue when someone can agree to disagree. What I won't stand for is a bash session. So if anyone does have something negative to say, I would say just go ahead and click and just be on your way. But for those of you that are interested in following that journey, I won't say that much more may come of this on my YouTube real quickly. But if you're interested to follow that journey, to see what comes of this, I invite you to my social media page, and that, like I said, that's at Jengaga. Again, this isn't for clout. This is for capturing what is true and what needs to be in the spotlight. So my commitment to anyone that I know is that I want to be in the know. I want to know what's going on. If you see something, please tag me. If you see anything that you feel that would be good for me to know, because my eyes and ears can't be everywhere at all times. I do work full time. I have a family. There's things that happen that I'm like, how did I not hear about this? It's so frustrating, especially when it's like, I didn't even know this was happening. So much is happening on social media all day, every day. But if there's something that it's from a legitimate news source that you feel that would be something I would want to, you know, tune into, please, by all means, please share it with me. In my own family, I don't know how my family may feel about this. I haven't really had these discussions with them. Of course, with COVID, I haven't seen much of my family other than my parents. These are conversations that take place. And I don't know how my family feels about this, but I'd be safe to say that I'm probably one of the ones that's most outspoken about it. And I have no shame in that game, because that's one thing that I cherish very, very dearly to my heart, is that regardless of where I was born, yes, I'm an American, pero igual soy mexicana, and I am not at all ashamed of that. Another thing that I wanted to really quickly, me talking about being Mexican American, I also may refer to myself as Chicana. And that's something that those that are Mexican American may often refer to themselves as. But the one thing that I want to touch on, and again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I've heard people say, well, I am an American. I am an American. I totally relate to that. 100% as well. But I am an American that does not forget her Mexican roots. And as much as people may think that I do, or may feel some kind of way because mi español está todo chopped up, at the end of the day, I'm still proud to say that my dad is de Jalisco and my mom is de el Distrito Federal, Mexico City, la Ciudad de Mexico. And so at the end of the day, I'm Californian, but I still got that 50% Jalisco, 50% la Ciudad de Mexico. And I am in no way, shape, or form ashamed of that. I embrace it all. When I was little growing up, and this is another thing, and this is a whole other topic at this point, which, hey, I may actually be open to talking about this on my YouTube in the future. But we also need to talk about the racism that occurs within our own Latino community. And I only bring this up because as an adult, looking back as a kid, what I thought was just a little, pet name that I was given, little nickname that I was given, I start to think about that. And I'm like, maybe it's because the tone of my color, the color of my skin, I was a little darker than my cousins. So growing up, I would be called La Jalisqueña because, my dad's from Jalisco, and I guess the idea was that if you're from Jalisco, you're darker complected. I don't know. And I thought it was cute growing up when one of my tios used to call me La Jalisqueña. That's fine. I embraced it. Actually, it was like 2 or 3 of my tios that used to call me that. But I do think about it now, and I'm like, is it because I was darker and I looked more Mexicana than some of my other cousins? I don't know. But at the end of the day, I will cherish my skin color. I like my skin tone. Certain colors suit me very well. So take it or leave it, folks. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still Mexicana and I'm still Americana. So it is what it is. So I don't know. This video has gone a little long at this point. I just really, really, really hope that we can all come together, and even for those that feel some kind of way, like, just listen. Just hear people out. That's all we're asking. Because if the tables were turned, I'm pretty sure all hell would be breaking loose, just as it is what you guys consider is happening right now. So for anyone who listened to the end, I really do appreciate you. I appreciate you for your support. I appreciate you for watching. I hope that you join all of us on this journey into really just educating ourselves and hoping for a better future. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button. I would really love it if you could subscribe. Again, I don't know that I'll be really touching on many of these topics in the near future, but I do hope that I can have that platform and I definitely want to make it more of a positive, you know, and share positive things happening. So I'm still in the works, still trying to think how I can make that happen. But it is definitely something that was long overdue, and it had been tugging at my heart, and I just knew that I had to at least say something. So I hope everybody has a good night, and hope you have an amazing tomorrow. Thanks everybody so much, and have a great night.